away even more quickly because Butch does have fresher right sides than does Mike.
Rob, when we first arrived here a couple of days ago, the Bob Seger lyrics came to mind from Night Moves, that these guys were searching for mysteries without any clues. They had never been here before. They had never seen this racetrack. They hadn't driven on it. The crew chiefs were trying to figure out how to set the cars up. The drivers were trying to figure out how to get their brain to tell their right foot to push on the gas at the right times around the racetracks. Now they have figured a lot of different things out, but there's still so very different strategies being played out in this event.
And what does it say when the crew chief tells you that they will let their driver go a lap down? It says that we have complete confidence in Miller. We also feel like that things are going to change a lot in terms of the complexion of this race before it's over. And there is a long way to go, so don't count Butch out. We watched Glenn Allen Jr. come from a lap down to win a week ago.
We also watched Mike Eddy find his way around the 52 car of Butch Miller, so Butch has gone the lap down that Gary Showalter conceded they would let him do. And now, well, Mike Eddy is going to set sail and try to collect as many other cars as he can before he has to come in for the inevitable pit stop that we heard Howard Thomas talk about.
Fourth and fifth positions being waged on the racetrack. Scott Hansen is fourth as the car number 22 of Jay Summers has pulled away just a little bit from Hansen and from Jay Sauter's car number 1.
Both Hansen and Sauter worked their way around number 75, and that is the Colorado driver, Roger Avance. And they go side by side here with Sauter on the inside groove there, and Scott Hansen trying to find a way around on the outside, hasn't been able to do it yet.
I think Scott's got a bit of a push. We saw the last time right in this section of the racetrack coming through turns 3 and 4. Scott did drift a little bit wide, gave Jay plenty of working room on the bottom side. But here comes Scott back now to the low part of the racetrack.
Good racing here by these two drivers, the number 1 there of Jay Sauter and the number 53 of Scott Hansen, keeping track of that. 4th and 5th place race, I believe, is where we are. And these two guys circulating around in pretty uneventful fashion ahead of a whole pack of race cars behind them.
And we've answered the question about a second groove working in. It's there already.
We would have expected, perhaps, with our crystal ball fogged over now, I would have to say that it would have taken a couple of hundred laps for that second groove to develop. But here, 123 laps into this 300-lap race, we're already seeing a lot of side-by-side racing, and things are bound to get even more interesting as we crank our way through this evening.
And now Jay Sauter has broken clear by about 4 car lengths over car number 53, Scott Hansen. And rolling into the picture is that Winnebago Chevrolet of Brad Loney. Now, we've talked about Hansen with the shot at the 20 grand. We really haven't mentioned Brad Loney, but he may have a chance at it as well. Once again, Scott Hansen moves in to challenge Jay Sauter.
Well, they all had a 1 in 14 chance on the starting grid, but some are looking a little bit better than others right now. Scott Hansen works his way inside once again, but Jay Sauter making the outside groove hang on for him. And these two guys really have a good door-to-door battle going on behind the 26 now of Bill Baird as they work their way up through some traffic, including Tom Jones there. He's minus the trunk and the rear deck on that car.
Jay Sauter, of course, 4th in the current point standings, a pair of back-to-back strong finishes early in the season, a 3rd at Columbus, a 2nd at Toledo. Had some problems last weekend at I-70, spent many laps on pit road. Ultimately, after starting 9th, was relegated to a 24th place finish, so he dropped from 7th to 4th in the standings as a result.
Sauter, once he gets a clean racetrack, is able to move away. We've got another spin down here coming out of the first turn, going on to that long curved backstretch. The 0-5 sits sideways. Larry Zintz, Fort Wayne Foundry Corporation Chevrolet, taking an excursion into the wall there, and looks like he's got some problems.
Larry had qualified extremely well for this race. He had unsuccessfully attempted to make one other starting field. If his name is unfamiliar to you, he's very recognizable to outlaw stock car racing fans as he holds, probably a dozen track records at various locations through the Midwest. And poor Tracy Schuler, apparently involved in another situation on the racetrack in car number 61.
We have 18 lapped cars. 15 remain on the lead lap here at the Kroger Bluegrass 300. The American Speed Association's 5th race of the season will continue in just a few moments.
I've never run such rough roads, this long.
Welcome back to Louisville Speedway, Louisville, Kentucky. 131 laps in the books, and Mike Eddy leads the Kroger Bluegrass 300. We're back in the Winston Tower. I'm Scott Douglas, and this time around here at Louisville, Kentucky, with the first ASA race, it, of course, is another step and another road on that trip to Las Vegas and the Las Vegas 300. Rossi Rattlencotter's here as the Vice President of Marketing for the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, and I know when you're talking about an event the magnitude of the Las Vegas 300, it means a year's worth of, and even more than that, work and a lot of sweat and a lot of trouble, but tonight you just get to enjoy some great racing.
Yes, this is very exciting, very great for us to be here in Louisville to see the race. We're very excited about having everybody come to Las Vegas on November the 2nd to see the 19th race of this series, which is the championship race, which will determine the points winner for 1994. Our involvement with this from a corporate standpoint, as well as our being involved with the ASA Racing Series, is very important to the market in Las Vegas.
And already looking forward to Vegas. We're looking forward now to a green flag. Let's get back up to the booth.
It has dropped. Mike Eddy stays out there on the racetrack, has still not pitted. Has said he will do so at halfway. That's only 17 laps from now if they go on schedule. Of course, we would expect that they would try to wait for a caution flag to come out. Pitting under green would be a big boo-boo.
Butch Miller rides right behind him. He is, in fact, in 16th position. Several cars back. In second spot now is Jay Summers, the rookie in car number 22. Scott Hansen runs third. Fourth is Brad Loney, both of those drivers in Chevrolets. The Ford Thunderbird of Todd Forbes is fifth. Sixth is Joe Knott in car number 48. Seventh after a pit stop, Glenn Allen Jr. in car number 15. Eighth is Steve Holtzhausen. Tony Raines runs ninth. Jay Sutter after a stop is in 10th. Gary St. Amand, who is on pit road under this caution, is 11th. Bob Seneker 12th. And other cars on the lead lap, Dave Sensiba in 13th. And surprisingly, Tracy Schuler hanging in there. He's 14th. And Tony Raines showing a lot of smoke that time out of turn number 4. 15th position, car number 5, Brian Refner.
Seems to be coming out from under the right front of the Raines car. Right now we continue to look at Mike Eddy and wait in anticipation of the pit stop that he will make. Then will the deck we are dealing with right now will certainly be reshuffled at that point. But there, oh, look, and now we've got fire out from under the right side. This could be the same problem that the BB car had, Bobby Dotter's car. Let's go to Ralph to see.
Well, he had a problem with the carburetor, and that is exactly where they're going. I don't see any more flames in there, but the crew is in looking around. There's lots of smoke pouring out from right in the carburetor area, and there is oil all over the place, and it's all over the tires. So I assume that that was an oil fire, and somewhere they ruptured a line.
Well, it looked for just a moment there, because of the flames coming out from under the wheel well, that it was the broken rotor problem. Instead, a completely different problem there. And oil smoke, I guess if we had smell-o-vision, we'd be able to tell.
The bad luck continues to persist for Tony Raines, a young man who Mike Eddy said if he ever quit driving, and we've got a spin up in turn number 1, and it's the third place car number 22, actually the second place machine of Jay Summers, that rookie who was turning in such a fine run.
Well, and the caution flag that perhaps Mike Eddy was waiting for, is he'll maybe go into the pit now, although they've been keeping us guessing so far. Howard Thomas and the Good Ranch 88 crew down there. What a tough break here for Jay Summers after he qualified so well and races so well up to this point.
As we wait for a replay, just to finish that thought very quickly, Mike Eddy said if he ever quit driving and was just a car owner, Tony Raines is the guy that he would like to have behind the wheel. So don't judge Tony by the misfortune that this team has suffered in the early part of 1994.
Well, your heart really goes out to such a nice guy, such a skilled driver, and such a great crew when, well, Lady Luck is a fickle lady indeed in ASA racing.
Your heart has to go out to Jay Summers as well, as his race will end early here this evening.
There once again is the 25 car up on the jacks. They're not changing tires real fast, and we are looking at Tony Raines' number 25 car. We're going to go down once again to the Mike Eddy pit, where the story continues to be, will they come in or not? Ralph Shaheen?
I got Howard Thomas down here with me. Howard, we are working lap 141, and you mentioned you come in around halfway. Are you going to extend that?
Yeah, we're going to go a little further. The car hasn't slowed down any since the first of the race, and so we don't think the new tires will really pick us up any. And we just don't want to go to the back.
Now, I've also noticed on our scoreboard here that the temperature has dropped some 8 degrees since we started this race. Is that working in your favor?
Well, I don't know if it is or not. I just believe the cooler it gets, the faster it'll get. So it'll work the same for everybody, I believe.
But can you make it on fuel?
Well, we have one mandatory stop, so I would guess the next yellow will be in for tires and gas.
There's the story from the 88 pit. And we're going to take another quick pit stop here as we watch Mike Eddy circulate in the lead as he has from the very first lap of this race. 142 are gone. Lots more to come. The Louisville Motor Speedway, the Kroger Bluegrass 300 nearing the halfway mark. Young race fans, we're going to be talking to you in a very special way here in just a couple of moments. Grab a pencil and a piece of paper, anything you can to write with, as we've got some important information for you. We'll continue to have lots of important information, everybody, so make sure you got a pencil and a piece of paper handy. There's There's Mike Miller in the number 18 car, second on points right now. And he offered to solve the question of one of our young racers. Let's go to Josh Duvall.
This week's question comes from Christine Gillis from Ontario, Canada. She wants to know what causes the flames to shoot out of the back of the cars. So we asked veteran ASA driver Mike Miller, who helped design the motor.
Thanks for writing in, Kristen. That was a very, very good question. And of course, the question is, what causes the flames to come out of the tailpipe? A full explanation would take a long time, but to make it short and sweet, there's a little bit of gasoline left in the tailpipes, and the exhaust pipes are so hot that it burns this little bit of gasoline vapor that's left in the tailpipes, and as a result, you see flames coming out of the back of the car.
Thanks, Christine. For anyone else out there, send your photo and question to The Young Racers, P.O. Box 26792, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28221.
And tonight, Brian, we want to give our young racers some extra incentive to ride in, as we've gone back to green flag with Mike Eddy, who has led every lap, still out in front as we've completed 148. Listen to this, every young racer who writes in will automatically be entered in a drawing. If your name is drawn later in the year, you and your parents, yep, you got to take mom and dad, will win a trip to the ASA Championship race in Las Vegas on November 2nd. That's you, mom, and dad to Las Vegas. The prize includes airfare, hotel room, and race tickets. So send your questions to Josh, and maybe you want a trip to Las Vegas for the ASA Championship.
Wins Halfway Challenge is coming up, and that could be one of the things that Mike Eddy decided to stay out there for. Winner of this week's Wins Halfway Challenge indeed is the number 88 driver in the Goodwrench Pontiac, Mike Eddy. He wins $500 from wins for leading halfway through the race today. Remember, when it's wins, it works, and so far everything that Mike Eddy and his crew has done has worked in a fine way.
Here's a great battle for third position. It's Brad Loney running there right now behind Scott Hansen. And in his mirrors, he's looking at the black car number 07 of Todd Forbes. And we've got a whole handful of cars together down at turn number 1, completely blocking the racetrack.
Ouch.
And it includes Chris Miles in 09, 75, Roger Avance, the 26 of Bill Baird, car number 16, John Freeman. And for the second time in just a handful of laps, car number 22, Jay Summers. Also involved, Dennis Lampman in car number 9.
Dennis Lampman coming down the track there, and it looks like bumper cars as each of these guys tries to get going again. Mike Eddy was able to slip through down on the rumble strips and get through. Then Butch Miller went through. Mike Miller got through, but the whole racetrack is just about completely blocked, and 4 cars remain out there on the track at turn number 1. Let's take another look, see if we can get a look at it here. The tail end of what happened there as the 22 car for the second time is parked. Here is kind of the aftermath almost. Can't really tell what caused the accident, but we can certainly see the result of it. And up against the wall there is the number 22 car, the Hooters of Jay Summers.
And
tough break for the rookie.
He was one of the late cars on the scene, it appeared, Brian, so I don't think he really had any involvement other than to get caught up in what had already transpired.
A lot of cars circulating around, and it looks as though Mike Eddy will pit this time. They are past the halfway mark. They have a good opportunity to come in and change the tires and gas up and go to the finish line. There's Dr. Yale Conley.
Who, by the way, we mentioned last Saturday night that his wife Carmen was expecting a little one at any time. They're still waiting.
They're still waiting.
He needs to take her for a ride, I think, in car number 3. That'd do it.
That'd probably do something. As the pace car circulates on the racetrack, Jay Summers gets going again, chasing the tail end of the field. The track crew is still working on the situation up there in turn number 1.
Well, Mike Eddy, Scott Hansen, Todd Forbes, Gary St. Amant all coming on pit road, and Ralph will be there when Mike comes to a stop. Also coming in was Brad Loney and Tracy Schuler on the lead lap. Here comes Mike, and Ralph is there.
Well, Rob, he waited all the way until lap 154 before he let the Howard Thomas led crew go to work on the right side of his Goodwrench Pontiac. The fuel is going in. Mike sitting patiently, calmly waiting inside the car. He's been very calm, cool, and collected. Even the rest of the drivers commented earlier this afternoon that Mike Eddy looked like he came loaded for bear.
He gets out onto the racetrack just ahead of Scott Hansen, who also stopped. Gary St. Amant stopped. The 07 to Forbes goes back out onto the track. It looks as though Mike Eddy had a very quick pit stop from that Goodwrench crew down there.
Butch Miller has made his way back onto the tail end of the lead lap, but not far behind him is the man who will inherit the lead of this race, car number 15, Glenn Allen Jr. He will run on the point. The driver formerly from Cincinnati, now residing in Coopersville, Michigan, and right behind him is another youngster from Ohio, Joe Knott, in car number 48. He was extremely impressive last week in Missouri.
13.4-second pit stop for the Mike Eddy crew down there. When the money's on the line, these guys can sure perform out there. They move around sort of slow before the race gets started. Once it's underway, it's one of the best. They've put their man back out on the racetrack, and we'll return in a moment.
In Cedar Spring, Michigan, celebrating in this week a 50th wedding anniversary. And our youngest fan maybe is Carson Elliott McKee, the son of our producer Joel McKee and his bride Kathy McKee, who's celebrating birthday number 1 as of yesterday. Well, speaking of kids, here's a tough kid. Joe Knott from Ohio has suddenly become a real contender in ASA, and we talked to him a little bit earlier today.
No, they haven't changed any. What we're looking for is a top 10 finish for the season points, and that's just what we're still shooting for. You know, we don't want to get our hopes up too high, and that was our original goal, and I think we can make it.
We had, of course, asked him about his goals for the racing season, and I had prefaced that question by saying, you know, Tom Harrington, an ASA driver, had won the most improved twice, and he kind of made light of that at the banquet. But for Joe Knott, who won it last season in just his second year of ASA competition, I think for him it would be an honor to win it in successive seasons, and he's already established his mark as probably the leading candidate for that.
Maybe ahead of schedule after only a 2-year career in ASA. Maybe a lot of people wouldn't have said he would have progressed that quickly, but Joe Knott has certainly shown great promise. Well, he's second in the race right now, behind another young gun, Glenn Allen Jr., and it's fascinating how this chess match has started to develop here at the Kroger Bluegrass 300. This ASA racing normally turns into a real, you know, most of the racing is done out on the racetrack, but tonight so far, a lot of what's the outcome of this race so far has been determined in the pits and down on pit road, and that is the domain of Ralph Shaheen, of course.
Well, Brian, take a look at this. This is the right front tire that came off of Mike Eddy's machine. Now, it looks brand new, basically. They could have really gone all the way on it. They didn't have to stop for some fuel. But this is the only area where there's a little bit of wear. This would be the inside of the tire here. Now, that is not a concern to the crew. In talking to Howard Thomas, he says the only reason why there's wear here is because of the camber that they set into the car. And basically what that tells him is he has a neutral handling race car. Just what we were talking about at the very beginning of the race. This car is handling perfectly.
And what amazes me about that, Brian, is the fact that with all these changing surfaces that there is no tire wear to speak of. Quickly, as we prepare to go back to green, there's 17 cars on the lead lap. Mike Eddy is running in 8th position behind Glenn Allen, Joe Knott. Steve Holzhausen is 3rd. 4th is Bob Seneker. 5th is Jay Sauter. 6th is Dave Sensiva. In 7th position, Brian Reffner, then Mike Eddy. Scott Hansen runs 9th. Gary Sinemont 10th. Todd Forbes 11th. 12th is Brad Loney. 13th is Tracy Schuler. Now right in front of the leader, Glenn Allen Jr., but on the tail end of the lead lap are Butch Miller, Steve Scheib, Mike Miller, and Gordy Brunette.
So a couple of drivers have made up their lap. They're back on the lead lap. And we go back to green with Butch Miller at the front of the parade. But in fact, the leader of the race, sitting 7th on the racetrack, is the number 15, Glenn Allen Jr.
And I kind of wondered why he might not have come on pit road that time. It's always fun to kind of second-guess the crew chief. We weren't trying to say earlier that we know more about that team than does Chris Bradley. Obviously, he's guided into 3rd in the current point standings in a win last week. But it's always kind of fun to think about what you might do if you were a crew chief. This time they elected not to bring him in when most of the leaders did come in. It means that it would not have cost him significantly in terms of track position, but I think it was a wise choice, as it looks like the tires are going to go the distance here.
Well, with a neutral handling race car, you would expect that the chances of going the distance on tires would be very good indeed, as we're now only 163 laps into this race. So 137 to go. And in the infield, the 78 car, making like a dirt tracker there briefly, Steve Holzhausen from Bangor, Wisconsin.
Well, I think he was involved with Bob Seneker's car number 84. I didn't really see what happened. All I saw was both of those two machines off course course. And Steve Holtzhausen, who turned in a fine second-place run last week, now will have to work his way back through some traffic if he intends to contend for the victory tonight.
Notably absent from our lips, except for running down the standings, is the 84 car of Bob Seneker. He has ridden a very quiet race out there behind the wheel of the 84 car.
Now here's another peek. There is car number 78, Steve Holtzhausen. There's Bob Seneker. He was in the dirt just a little bit. Now, whether Steve had lost it and Bob was on the brakes or not, it's too hard to tell from that vantage point.
Well, the backstretch is ready for planting now that Steve Holtzhausen has turned the soil over back there. They can root up some crops for the summer. There's the number 15 car of Glenn Allen Jr. that continues to lead this race, although he is in the middle of the pack, you might say, of race cars that have restarted under green.
Well, I think Ralph Shaheen has corralled Chris Bradley. Now he's going to get a chance to ask him whether or not I'm the idiot up here in the booth. Ralph, what does Chris have to say?
Chris, Brian and Rob are playing armchair crew chiefs again, and they wanted to know why you stayed out on the track.
We already pitted once. I think that's going to be all it's going to take. We're hoping to stay out and go the distance. We're in the lead now, so it looks like it's working.
I would have to say, but you know, it was so early, and that was what caused our eyebrows to go up, was that they were able to come in and splash the gas in for a full tank and do their mandatory pit stop, you would have to say, so early in the race. They might have felt from the very beginning that they could go all the way, but the ASA says you got to make at least one pit stop per race. They've already done that. They did it early. Now it remains to be seen if Glenn Allen Jr. and his number 15 Pontiac can stay out there all the way.
Well, here are some other cars that did come in under this most recent caution, still on the lead lap, working their way through traffic. Look at that youngster Brad Loney working to the high side of Scott Hansen, and he's got that Winnebago Chevrolet running really well. Chevy drivers again battling for that $20,000 Chevy contingency money, and Loney is really working on the high side of the racetrack. He's right behind now. Gary St. Amant's wins Thunderbird, car number 7. Remember how strong Gary was early, and Loney is close right in behind him. I think this is back at around 8th, 9th, and 10th position.
Brad Loney also took a turn in the broadcast booth, apparently back at the track in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, that we will be visiting in early July, and he has decided that he would rather be a race car driver, and just as much as we will let the crew chiefs do the crew chiefing, apparently Brad Loney is going to let us stay in the booth. He's going to get behind the wheel and stay right there.
And if you've never seen him, he's one of the last guys, if you saw him in the pit area, that you'd ever think was a race driver. He was riding around today in short pants on his bicycle and doing some tricks. He'd actually stop and turn that front wheel sideways, and you know, from behind, I thought, who's this smart-aleck kid in the pit area? And he turned around, it was Brad Loney.
Maybe he's got a future in freestyle BMX or something. Who knows?
I don't know. Does that pay quite like this does? No. I don't think so. Well, $20,000 contingency?
I'm not sure. Brad Loney's got a nice payday ahead of him. If he can keep that number 33 car pointed straight around the racetrack, he's right behind Gary St. Amant's orange and black wins number 7. The wins Port City Ford Thunderbird this week after a brief stint behind the wheel of a borrowed Chevrolet that he rode to 4th place last weekend.
We just noticed that Jay Sauter brought car number 1 on pit road unexpectedly under green, and a driver that we thought had a shot at victory tonight was running in 3rd position, has given it up to Mike Eddy. Remember, he was in 8th after that caution. He's now in 3rd, but Brad Loney is the guy putting on the show right now as he works his way through traffic.
Got the 33 car working extremely well. Steve Holtzhausen ducks down on the inside of the red 33. Loney finding that transition spot that you were standing on at the top of the broadcast there. And St. Amant sideways heading down into the short track and almost collects one of the crews down there that was pitted at the very front end of pit road. Up in the wall, yet another car.
That's the 07 of Todd Forbes, and 2 weeks in a row, fate bites the Ford Thunderbird driver from Northern Ohio. Gary St. Amant gets going once again. I don't believe he lost a lap, Brian. I think he was able to get that orange and black machine going. Todd Forbes, less fortunate as he's come to rest up against the retaining wall in turn number 2.
There's Gary St. Amant circulating the track in fine form past the car of Todd Forbes parked on the wall. Let's take a look at just what went on right here. Looking for that number 7. He's deep in some traffic there. Holtzhausen behind him, Refner in front of him, and there he heads into the pit, and there was a quick stepping pit crew out there with dust scattering everywhere.
Now let's take another peek. I think Gary St. Amant was right behind Brian Refner, who was in turn right behind Todd Forbes, and I think just a little bit of contact between perhaps the 3 of them. Look, as Gary St. Amant slides to the infield right up next to one of the pit stalls, Here is Gary. Now he gets banged from behind by Steve Holzhausen. The car's just out of focus, just to the left of the screen.
And they're scattering.
Whoa!
Off the war chest there, the war wagon goes the one of the crew guys that was standing up on top of the toolbox. Jay Sauter was already in the pit. We had mentioned that before. Now he goes back out in kind of leisurely fashion right there. Interesting to see just what the problem was, as he had to pit under green, and then the caution came out very quickly, just a lap or two at the most later.
Butch Miller is back out on the racetrack there in the Liberty Ford Thunderbird, the Ford Quality Care machine, and he is on the lead lap.
While the yellow flag is waving, we're going to cut away from the action right here. The fans are enjoying one heck of a race as we are working our way towards the 2/3 mark. Look out, folks. We're
It's not really that difficult to earn the name Goodwrench.
All it takes is all you've got.
Goodwrench, raising the standards of performance on the track and in your GM dealership.
Brought the KC Motorsports entry back behind the wall. Jay, what's the problem?
That looks like something with the engine. The crew did a great job with the car tonight. We had a good car. You know, it's too bad it happens in racing. We'll be back next week to give it all we got.
Looked like the radiator might be the key area where most of the smoke was.
Yeah, it's overheating. It could be a head gasket. It could be a number of things. You know, it's just unfortunate, and we'll be back next week.
Jay Sauter out of tonight's competition, Brian.
So instead of going back out onto the racetrack, he was taking the KC Motorsports Pontiac behind the wall. And tip of the bad luck, well, Lady Luck has frowned upon Jay Sauter this week.
And it's frowned for the second successive week upon that man right there, Todd Forbes, the driver of the Noah Yoder Thunderbird, car number 07. And again, I think the victim of circumstance on the racetrack.
Coming back to green, helmet off, hat on, means that apparently Todd Forbes is going to call it a night. 185 laps into this Kroger Bluegrass 300. The American Speed Association goes back to green flag racing here. That is how we will finish, too, of course. There is no yellow flag finish for us here in the American Speed Association.
23-year-old Glenn Allen Jr. leading the race. 21-year-old Joe Knott running in second position, and 21-year-old Mike Eddy running third in car number 88. And all of a sudden, with those fresh right side tires, those that Ralph and Howie Thomas, his crew chief, said really weren't that significant, he's got that thing just working so well as he goes to the low side of Knott.
At will, he goes to the low side of Joe Knott in the 48 car. Mike Eddy's got that car stuck down on the inside like at least two tires are running on rails. Glenn Allen Jr., though, is not going to be such an easy mark for Mike Eddy to get around. And as sure as we say that, of course, Mike Eddy will drive right around him. It looks like he's going to try to do it on the high side.
Right behind these three is the fourth place car number 4. He'll creep into your screen. There he is. That's Dave Sensiva. Started in 29th position this evening. Ran so well last week, finished 5th. At Toledo, remember, he was leading the race when he was involved in an incident late in the going. Now Mike Eddy will go to the high side of Glenn Allen Jr. and a pair of Pontiacs will battle for the point.
Well, the Hard Charger Award, the Dixiana Hard Charger Award, may be the least of the concerns for the number 4 car of Dave Sensiva. A good finish for him would put him right back in the hunt in that Pat Shower Memorial Rookie of the Year competition. A lot of money on the line for that as well. And for the young driver, the number 4 that we thought might certainly be the front runner, instead he's having to work his way up from 3rd in the point standings right now and 4th on the racetrack behind these guys.
Glenn Allen this time stays a little bit low coming through the back section. We'll refrain from calling it a back straightaway because it really is the round part of the D, and we've got another car out of shape over in turn number 2. And for the moment, Glenn Allen will hang on to the lead. I think it's a foregone conclusion, though, that at some point Mike Eddy is going to make work of him.
Tracy Schuler's misfortunes continue here. Lady Luck has got an ugly face on for the 61 car as well tonight, as he's parked up there facing the grandstands on the turn 1-2 area. As you said, this D-shaped race course, a little tough to get a handle on just exactly what to call these turns. There's definitely a first turn, there's definitely a last turn, and then there's a big curve all the way around the stretch.
Tracy Schuler, Brian, believe it or not, despite all those on-track incidents, had still been running on the lead lap. In fact, he was in 10th position. At this point, he's no longer in 10th position, but that's where he was.
Tracy Schuler parked in the turn over there, very close to the VIP suites, and Scott Douglas has taken up residence over there. Let's see what the latest is from the cozy confines of the VIP area.
You know, somebody's got to do this job the tough way here in the VIP suites of the Winston Tower. And so Clyde Witt from Super America and I have just been kind of sitting back watching a little racing. Clyde, I'll tell you, what a great show these guys are putting on. Enjoying yourself?
Sure am. It's been exciting. A lot of bumping and shoving going on out there, but Mike Eddy seems to have it well at hand.
What do you think about it? Now, we got Glenn Allen Jr. obviously having a super run, but Eddie has cut through the pack. Are you going to make a prediction for us here?
Yeah, I'm going to predict that Eddie's going to pass Glenn.
I think Mike Eddy's going to do it there. Glenn Allen obviously having a good run. As you come around and get to watch this ASA race, and it's so neat to see the top caliber drivers come back to Kentucky, and we were talking about that a little bit earlier with the Super America's involvement. It is really great to see the major leagues right here at Louisville Speedway.
It sure is. Super America's excited to be involved with ASA racing. There's a lot of race fans with Super America, and I just hope we can have a long and enjoyable relationship.
And we're just going to keep enjoying things up here in the Winston Tower VIP suite. We'll walk up and then grab another cold soft drink and get ready to see if Mike Eddy can get it done with 193 laps down. He's still got to get around Glenn Allen Jr. and Clyde. I guess we'll just come up here and see if your prediction holds true.
Okay.
All right, let's go back up to the booth, guys.
What an up-and-down season for Tracy Schuler. Failed to qualify at the first race, finished 8th at Columbus, 13th at Toledo, 35th at I-70, and out again here tonight. Ralph, a lot of attrition this evening.
There sure is, Rob. Let's update all the fans at home where their favorite driver might be. You can see a light back behind Dennis Lampman's car. That's John Freeman's machine. They're changing a power steering pump. Lampman's car just suffered too much damage from the crashes. He's done for tonight. Just behind me here, you see the Yoder Ford, that of course belonging to Todd Forbes. They have shifted the whole rear end over on that car. He's knocked out of competition. Right here is Roger Avant's red entry number 75. He broke a motor. He is done for the night. And right over here is Larry Zent's car. They're not running for points. They've had a lot of damage to the front nose section of the car, so they're just going to ease this one out tonight, come back and race with us on another week.
Well, we are far from done for the night here at the Kroger Bluegrass 300. The ASA AC Delco Challenge Series will continue, and the best, they say, is yet to come. And remember, I told you to have a pencil and a piece of paper. Then you can send it to Brickyard 400 Tickets, P.O. Box 26792, Charlotte, North Carolina 28222. Waning moon is what you are watching right now. That is a very important part of the information that you will send to us. You can always write to us at that same address and let us know what you think, how you feel, how we're doing, what you want to see. Lots of feedback available to you, the race fan of the American Speed Association, here on Prime.
Only Steve Holtzhausen among the leaders was on pit road. He relinquishes 6th position. Glenn Allen Jr. will lead. Mike Eddy second. Joe Knott is third. Dave Sensiver runs fourth as the green comes out once again at lap number 198 of this race. Bob Seneca runs in 5th position. 6th is Brad Loney. 7th Scott Hansen. 8th Steve Shive. 9th is Butch Miller. 10th is Mike Miller. 11th Gary St. Amant. In 12th position after that stop is Steve Holtzhausen. 1 lap down at 13th is Carter Benighty, Ken Stoffer. 14th a lap down, Gordy Burnett.
Glenn Allen Jr. leading Mike Eddy, and there are two of the very, very best, one of the best young Turks on the American Speed Association circuit, and the man that has won 7 championships, 44 victories, 200 out of the 300 laps are now officially in the record book, and a lot of people say this is like the 4th quarter of an NBA game. This is like the 3rd period of an NHL hockey game. The last 100 laps are where the job really gets done.
Dare I bring this up, Brian? We kind of confronted Mike Eddy last week, and we said, we've had a lot of controversy this season. You haven't been mentioned in any of it. He said, I kind of wish I was. Ooh, I hope it's not tonight that it starts, huh?
He has just driven an absolutely squeaky clean race out there and is just so competent that you could never begin to cast any aspersion on Mike Eddy or the crew that has put that race car together for him in such superb fashion. Likewise, Glenn Allen Jr. and Chris Bradley, the crew chief, they have put a superb car together, and we have another little squeak up against the wall there as the number 3 car of Dr. Yale Conley has brushed the backstretch.
And he's able to continue. He was, in fact, running 3 laps or 2 laps down in 15th position, having a very good run here tonight. I don't think he lost another lap. He might have. He's going to rejoin the field at the tail. I expect him to come on pit road. But we will momentarily again go back under caution, and Mike Eddy will have to wait for another shot at Glenn Allen.
I have a theory about all that controversy and pushing and shoving that was going on in Toledo. Remember that little tiny moon that we were just peeking at? I think it was full in Toledo. So? I think it was just the moon was going on out there that night, and these guys were just all over each other. And since then, they've been racing well, just giving each other plenty of room and paying a lot of respect to one another as race car drivers. They are certainly among the best at this business, and they're showing it to us tonight.
Jay Summers involved again. The only car I saw was Dr. Conley. By the time I caught some dust out of the corner of my eye, he was already up against the wall. There were several cars running together on the racetrack that you could see. The only two that we saw actually involved were Jay Summers and Yale Conley, but everybody able to drive away.
Fans are enjoying a relative pause here, a chance for them to catch their breaths. A lot of them have been on their feet cheering for their favorite drivers out there. It's hard to pick a clear favorite in this race right now. Certainly Mike Eddy and Glenn Allen Jr., the two major contenders who run at the front of the field. Glenn Allen leading Mike Eddy, and the 48 car there, Joe Knott. Dave Sensiba running extremely well. Bob Seneker. Bob Seneker, where did that come from? We have not talked about the Bluebird number 84, and he has certainly driven a very patient race. Ralph Shaheen mentioning the name of Bob Seneker briefly during a timeout that we had while you were away. We're getting ready to go back to green flag racing as we look at the top 10 as they stand right now, getting set to go for the final 95 laps of this race.
In case you were wondering, as I was, 14 caution flags already for 72 laps. That is not unexpected.
I was wondering actually how many caution flags there had been. Roger Slack with a very busy yellow flag out there tonight. And the one that he is hoping to pay attention to most now is the green one. The green, number 15, out in front. Last time he was the winner of this race when we visited I-70 Speedway 1 week ago.
Glenn Allen continues to hold Mike Eddy at bay. It's so funny because just a couple of years ago, Mike Eddy would have had no trouble driving around Glenn Allen, but he's just doing a masterful job of that green and blue car number 15. We've talked about turn number 4 a lot. We talked about it pre-race. Ralph, your thoughts on that area of the race course?
Rob, watch the cars as they come through here next time by me. Look how white the cars are as they come down through the dip section of the racetrack. We're inside the final 100 laps. This could be our controversy section. As light and white as these cars are, a very, very slight bump to the rear end, if it's properly placed, can force a driver off of the proper line and allow the guy in second place to come sliding on through. Watch again. Here they come. Look how loose the cars are. The rear end's just dancing around. One light touch, and you could go from second to first, and controversy would come raining down.
You know what the drivers told us, Brian, was that as you crest that hump, and again we'll watch Glenn Allen, watch the transition. There he goes from the dark section to the light. That's really probably a 6 or 7 foot drop in elevation. And they said you, number one, cannot be on the brakes when you come over that rise, because if you are, as soon as it lands, boom, you're out of control. Or you cannot be the least bit sideways. You've got to go very straight over that bump. And I think they learned their lesson in practice and qualifying yesterday. We've seen no incidents down there thus far this evening.
Virtually none. We did have one, the only one that I can recall, and that seemed to be a very isolated one, of a driver perhaps trying to turn before he got over that little elevation change and went into the wall, but not hard. Glenn Allen Jr., Mike Eddy continuing to circulate without having any handling problems in the car, although it looked like Glenn Allen Jr.'s car a little loose at that point on the racetrack.
Well, I think the tail of the tape will now come as they make their way into lap traffic. We have not had that situation in quite some time. They're beginning to close on Yale Conley and Jay Summers. If they're able to catch the tail into the field, that is where Mike Eddy's car has seemed to perform at its most flawless.
He's been able to point it just about anywhere he wanted to go. Glenn Allen Jr. perhaps fighting a car that's not handling quite as perfectly as that of Mike Eddy. Now we look back here at the number 7 of Gary St. Amant, back into the field just a little bit deeper right now among the contenders. There's Butch Miller in the 52. His car, that Quality Care Port City Liberty Ford Thunderbird, leading in points right now. Gary St. Amant taking a very tight line down on the inside.
And they are racing that car number 54. That's the Steve Shive machine. 4 positions. Steve Shive with a very impressive run here this evening has occupied 8th position. He's trying to put another lap on Kent Stopper. Gary St. Amant hoping that Stopper can keep his mount out in front of Shive Chevrolet, and that's what he's able to do. So Gary will pick up that 8th position. Right behind him comes Butch Miller and Mike Miller in tow. I think that's just a situation of maybe a little bit of lack of experience on the part of Steve Shive. That's not to take a thing away from him. He's had a great night.
Well, it seems like when one car ducks down on the inside, and the 2 or 3 can come right through along with him. If you get in the wrong line, it can be tough for you. Let's go down to Ralph once again. He's always got something interesting.
Gentlemen, watch this action from Toledo a few races back. Watch Butch Miller come up on the back side of Jay Sauter, nudge him just a little bit, and knock him off the lane, and he slides by. Oh, it is definitely a controversial move, but he was able to do it and win the race and not put Jay Sauter into the wall. And if anybody out here knows how to do that outside of Butch Miller, it is Mike Eddy.
Boy, is Ralph like trying to set something up here tonight or what?
I tell you, we're all kind of, that's a thought that has to be in the back of everyone's mind. But in talking to a lot of these drivers and in watching the Last Chance qualifier and watching qualifying and watching some of the other late model cars that ran out here as part of the regular show, that turn 4 area is really not where passing happens. And we would not expect that a last lap pass would happen in that area. It's just too risky to try to do. Instead, it's somewhere else on the racetrack, that I think anyway, that these drivers are going to try to make a more methodical charge towards that checkered flag rather than letting it come down to just that last 100 feet out of the final turn.
It's apparent that Mike Eddy does have a slightly faster car than Glenn Allen. Now he's got the slight edge. Has to think better of it this time. Settles back in with about 76 laps to go. Meanwhile, Joe Knott and Dave Sensabaugh have begun to close on this pair.
Well, while the two guys are racing up front, that provides an opportunity for drivers who are just running a nice steady race with open track in front of them. A guy that may have some perspective on all of this is behind the wall right now. We saw him earlier, and he's with Ralph.
Jay, you've been right where Glenn Allen Jr. is, in a position with a veteran driver on your backside in a loose situation, just what Glenn is dealing with. You know that a guy like Mike can come in, just tap you, and move you up the lane. How do you deal with it?
Well, Glenn is doing just what he has to do. He's holding his line, trying to make Mike find a way around him. I think Glenn will handle it fine. He'll be in good shape.
And once again, the 22 car, the Hooters car of Jay Summers involved and sitting in the grass right now. There were a couple of cars actually involved, and one of them, we've seen it before.
And we watched Roger Slack in the flag stand. He waited and waited and waited with that yellow flag, hoping that Jay Summers would be able to get car number 22 refired and back onto the racetrack. Jay was not able to do that in a sufficient amount of time. Therefore, Roger did have to display the caution.
We're once again going to take a quick break away from the action here under caution. You won't miss anything, so we'll pay attention to what goes on. If anything happens, we'll let you know about it when we come back. There's a look at Jay Summers getting sideways. Out there on the racetrack with 65 laps remaining in this 300-lap race. Glenn Allen Jr. running up front of Mike Eddy. And there it is, the green flag we have been waiting for, and perhaps, Rob Albright, we will race green all the way to the checkered flag for 65 laps. History tells us probably not, but either way, we're going to finish under green.
I'd actually like to see that happen. It would be interesting to see these drivers get into some lap traffic. If that occurs, I think it could change the complexion pretty dramatically. Did Chris Bradley say that Mike Eddy was going to have to make the move on the high side? Well, Glenn Allen points the nose of car number 15 right to the bottom in turn number 2, and Mike has no choice but to again momentarily grab the binders.
But coming out of turn number 1, Glenn Allen's car gives Mike Eddy enough room to get underneath if he can, but he is certainly keeping that number 15 True Motorsports Port City Pontiac as wide as he can make it out there. And Allen continues to lead this race. We're going to go for another quick stop down inside. Ralph Shaheen. Ralph?
Well, Brian, we've talked a lot about the way these two drivers can potentially battle in these race cars as Mike Eddy goes to the outside now of Glenn Allen Jr. We don't want to make it sound like either one of these drivers is a vicious, cruel, bad type of driver who drives rough as Mike Eddy makes the move. All we're saying is that these drivers play even on a solid playing field, but they're both masters at their craft. And when you have a 2,800-pound rocket like these ASA cars, and you're a quality driver like these two, this is like a painting by Picasso. These guys can do anything with these race cars, and that is what is the beauty of watching these guys race.
And it was a beautiful pass. It was a beautiful job by Mike Eddy in making the high side work, but I think credit goes to Glenn Allen Jr. as well. He could have scooted Mike right out to the wall in turn number 4. Instead, he said, okay, you're alongside me fair and square. If you can drive by going into turn number 1, it's yours, and that's exactly what Mike was able to do.
Well, they have switched positions now, and so Glenn Allen Jr. gets an opportunity to watch the back end of the Mike Eddy car and wait for an uncharacteristic mistake by the driver of the 88 Goodwrench Pontiac. And, well, I don't know. Glenn Allen Jr. has already conceded through Chris Bradley's lips that perhaps Mike Eddy is faster, but Mike Eddy is not driving away from the green 15 right now.
And here are other Dave Sensiba seeing those Pontiacs get away and realizing that he's the forward-most Chevrolet in 4th position with a shot at that $20,000 from Chevy division, now begins to put some real pressure on Joe Knott. That's the first time we've seen that in a number of laps.
Bob Seneker.
What did you say?
Bob Seneker. We keep sneaking that name in there because the sneaker himself is sitting real quiet in 5th spot right now. As there you can see him behind the number 4 car of rookie Sensiba.
I think Bob right now would be content with a 5th place finish. You normally wouldn't say that about Bob Seneker. He's won more races than any ASA driver in history, over 70 of them. But right now, with the luck that he's had this season, a 34th and a 32nd place finish to show for 4 starts, 17th in the points. He would like to make his way up in those point standings. Right now running in 5th position. Meanwhile, Mike Eddy and Glenn Allen are pulling away. And here's great racing for 3rd through about 10th or 12th position as they are nose to tail.
Also have to think back to Toledo when the 3 leaders, and we had kind of settled in to watch a race among 3 drivers, Scott Hansen, Glenn Allen Jr., and then all of a sudden all 3 of them were in the wall, and the race, the inherited race lead went over, and of course the eventual winner turning out to be Butch Miller.
Bob Seneker has fallen about a car length behind Dave Sensiba, but Brad Loney is putting some heat on him as Butch Miller goes to the low side of Scott Hansen as he wants 8th position.
A lot of racing going on behind the 2 leaders. The 2 leaders now getting set to move into some traffic out there as Jay Summers, who has certainly had his troubles in this race, is driving a race car that is not 100%. And as skillful as all these guys are, when you got the whole tail end of the car missing, it's not going to handle like it's supposed to. And that's exactly what Mike Eddy is going around right now, is the 22 car of Summers taking Glenn Allen Jr. with him on the high side.
I'm surprised, Brian, that Glenn is able to keep pace with Mike Eddy. I thought once Mike got around, he would disappear. He's not been successful in doing that, nor have either Dave Sensiba or Bob Seneker been able to get past that kid, Joe Knott, in 3rd.
Well, it looks like now Mike Eddy is opening up some ground there, and then just as I say that, it looks like Glenn Allen closes it back up again. So it appears as though if Mike Eddy's car is faster, it's faster on certain parts of the racetrack, and then Glenn Allen Jr. is able to find a spot on the racetrack that works well for him and minimize his losses. Mike Eddy working his way up to the back of the field as the Tony Roper car there, number 10, missing the whole front end, is not going to be working as well as Tony would like it. And these 2 guys go around the outside. Well, the race is for the lead right now. We are looking at just over 50 laps until the finish of the Kroger Bluegrass 300. We're going to have to take a quick cut away from the action. We'll be back real quick. These folks are on the edge of their seats. Stay with us.
Is a young man destined for stardom. Bob Seneker, look at this. He's given up that position to Brad Loney, who made his way past. Seneker has now dropped into 6th spot, who has not yet won this year, won 1 race last year, and I believe the yellow flag is coming out as Tony Raines has gone off course over in turn number 2. There is the 7th place car of Scott Hansen in car number 53. And I think about a whisper is all that's going to work for Bob Seneker right now, as he's driving as hard as he can, but he just doesn't have the car to get it done tonight. The right front tire is flat on Tony Raines' car number 25.
Gone,
Brian,
I would say.
What else can go wrong for this team?
I don't know. Tony Raines can't, if it wasn't for bad luck, if it wasn't for horrible luck, he wouldn't have any luck at all. Ralph Shaheen is standing by to see just how Lady Luck has bitten the 25 car this time.
Well, it is flat tires. He was going down into turn 1 and blew the right front, and it just slid him right off the racetrack, and he did some agricultural work down there. He's torn up most of the front end of the car. They've changed tires, and now Ernie Roselli slips in the oil. Don't forget there's oil all over this pit stall down here from where it caught on fire earlier.
Tony Raines makes his way back out onto the racetrack with a fully inflated right front tire, thanks to a good pit stop there by the Ernie Roselli crew. We're going to cut away from the action here. Only about 25 laps will remain. Bradley was what Glenn Allen thought he might have needed, was to use the traffic to his advantage. Instead, now they've got a clean racetrack in front of them.
And you know what? One has to wonder. We're going to run 5 laps to the checkered flag, and Glenn Allen did not get a particularly good restart. If he could have closed in behind Mike Eddy, we've got a Chevrolet in 3rd position, that of youngster Brad Loney. Look at him close on Glenn Allen. Glenn is going to have to fight now for 2nd position.
We got a couple of young guns driving behind the veteran Mike Eddy, and it remains to be seen whether either of these 2 will be able to do anything with him. Now, we also mentioned that Mike Eddy might have just been soft pedaling around the racetrack and waiting for this 5-lap shootout to really open the lead that he seems to be able to do at will. And in fact, he has.
Mike's car has worked well all night long, right out of a caution. Glenn needs some laps on the right side tires to get him warmed up, to get up to speed, and he's not going to be able to catch Mike Eddy. We've got 2 laps to go, now a lap and a half, and it looks like it's going to be Mike's second victory of 1994. And here comes Glenn. He's closing.
Comes Glenn closing up, and if he's going to make a move, he knows that it's going to be a desperate one here in the closing lap of this race. We are in the final lap with Mike Eddy out in front. He sat on the pole for the 25th time in his career, and he's looking for victory number 45. There's the dreaded turn number 4. No problem, and Mike Eddy celebrates along with his crew his 45th career victory in the American Speed Association, taking the Kroger Bluegrass 300 from the pole. A terrific performance by a veteran driver who had this racetrack handled from the very beginning.
And amazingly, I count 12 cars still on the lead lap. And look at Mike Eddy. You can see him unbuckling, and it looked like he took a huge breath as the camera panned in on him over there in turn number 3. A great run for Mike Eddy. A fantastic performance for Glenn Allen Jr. as well. And Brad Loney duplicating a career best third-place finish. 2
young drivers giving it everything they had behind the It was the old dog teaching the young ones a few more new tricks. Here's your top 5. We'll come back and talk to one, of course, by Mike Eddy in the number 88. There's his number on the scoreboard. And, well, Ralph Shaheen's got his number in.
Good Challenge Series. And, Mike, have you ever driven a better race car than you had here tonight?
Well, I have, but it's been a while. We've struggled the last few weeks here in the GM Goodwrench Pontiac, and we just put everything back the way it was at Columbus when we kind of dominated the field, and we kind of did again today, and I'm really tickled to death.
Is there something magical about the setup that you have found for this type of racetrack?
Well, I really don't know whether it's magical or whether it's that I like this racetrack. I mean, this racetrack fits my style. I mean, it's one you got to attack all the time, and I just loved it tonight. The car worked great, and everything worked just perfect.
Can you explain that a little bit? I mean, the fans at home have heard us talking all night about how you have to be smooth and easy on and off the gas, yet you say you attack the track all night. Can you break that down for us?
Well, this racetrack here, there's about 100 yards of it where you can run wide open, and it's right after turn 1. And that seems to be where I did all my passing tonight, and where I can make up all my time is right there in that 100 yards. And so that's the way I seen it. And then the rest of the track is just kind of maintained, and our car was just faster all day.
At the end there, when we had the 5 laps to go, you seemed to really be able to pull away from Jay. Or from Little Glenn. Did you have a little bit left, or did you just get a better jump?
Well, I probably never really run as hard as I could until I passed Little Glenn. I followed him there for quite a while. Then on one of the restarts, I made the lunge to the outside and got by him. But then once I'm in front, I got a bad habit of slowing down.
Mike Eddy, the winner here tonight at Louisville Motor Speedway.
And a great attitude by a great veteran driver, and it's certainly the brightest star in the American Speed Association sky has shined again once here tonight. We're going to take another quick cut away from the action, come back, talk to more of the ASA stars. Stay with us. We're not done yet.
Troy Troop has got to be going crazy out of his mind. 2 weekends he hasn't been here with, and you guys have been running almost flawlessly. A great drive by you here tonight. Did you just not have enough for Mike at the end, or was it that you were stuck having to go to the inside?
Well, I give him the outside groove, and he sure went by us. He was on a little bit better tires than we were. The Goodyears were great. Actually, we could go the whole distance on the tires without even making a pit stop, but it was mandatory, and we made a decision.
But very talented. Glenn Allen Jr. comes home in second.
Our congratulations to him for his second-place finish, and for the second weekend in a row, a great run by the green number 15. Once again, we're going to cut away. When we come back, lots more stuff. So don't go anywhere. These people are hanging in. You do exactly the same thing. The Kroger Bluegrass 300 by the green number 15. Once again, we're going to cut away. When we come back, lots more stuff. So don't go anywhere. These people are hanging in. You by the green number 15. Once again, we're going to cut away. When we come back, lots more stuff. So don't go anywhere. These people run by the green number 15. Once again, we're going to cut away. When we come back, lots more stuff. So don't go anywhere. These people run by the green number 15. Once again, we're going to cut away. When we come back, lots more stuff. So don't go anywhere. These people run by the green number 15. Once again, we're going to cut away. When we come back, lots more stuff. So don't go anywhere. These people run by the green number 15. Once again, we're going to cut away. When we come back, lots more stuff. So don't go anywhere. These people are run by the green number 15. Once again, we're going to cut away. When we come back, lots more stuff. So don't go anywhere. These people are run by the green number 15. Once again, we're going to cut away. When we come back, lots more stuff. So don't go anywhere. These people are hanging in. You do exactly the same thing. The Kroger Bluegrass 300 is in the record books, but we're not done talking about it.
Old black magic has me in its spell. Old black magic that you weave so well. Those icy fingers up and down my spine. The same old witchcraft when your eyes meet mine. Down and down I go, round and round I go.
To be a NASCAR Western Cup champion, you need magic in these parts, and the magic of these parts.
Under that old black magic, old black magic.
He did. Mike Eddy moves around to the outside to take the lead, and, well, it was only taking the lead for the second time. He held it from the very beginning, lost it on pit stops, came back to take it, and go all the way to the checkered flag. The Wynn's winning move to Mike Eddy in the number 88 Goodwrench Pontiac. If there was a runner-up for a winning move, it would have to be the move that put Brad Loney into third place in this race, and he's with Ralph Shaheen.
Tremendous run for you tonight from the back of the pack. Where is this team at right now?
These guys are fantastic. Winnebago H&W Motor Express Flex Steel Chevrolet car was running great. There's nothing but good things to come for this team, and we ran against a couple of tough guys. I thought we had enough for them in the last 5 laps. It just wasn't to be.
You got to believe that his star will be shining pretty brightly here in the tour real soon as well, gentlemen.
You got to wonder, Brian, who's going to win the $24,000 next week from Chevrolet, Scott Hansen or maybe that kid right there?
Well, the frustration continues for the Chevrolet drivers, but it's also what a tantalizing carrot is hanging now in front of them. Here is a look down through the entire finish of the race here. Mike Eddy, Glenn Allen, Brad Loney, you heard from all of them. Joe Knott, well, he had to give up the spot that he had. There's the Miller & Miller show finishing 8th and 9th place. And the finish tonight by Glenn Allen Jr. and by Mike Eddy is going to tighten up the points battle, something ferocious. And we will have 2 races in between now and when we see you once again on a televised event.
Glenn Allen will leapfrog Mike Miller into second position, and now will just be about 20 or so behind Butch Miller. Mike will hang on to third, but Mike Eddy will move up from his current 8th place standing.
A great race by a great veteran driver in the number 88 Goodwrench Pontiac. Mike Eddy picks up career win number 45 off his 25th pole position, and our congratulations go out to him. We've had a fun time up here in the booth and enjoyed the work of Ralph Shaheen down in the infield for the encyclopedic Rob Albright and the amazing Ralph Shaheen down in the infield. I'm Brian Drebber saying so long from Louisville Motor Speedway and the Kroger Bluegrass 300. We will have lots of racing coming up for you all the way down through the season finale and the championship race in Las Vegas. Stay with us here on the American Speed Association and the AC Delco Challenge Series. I think you'll agree it's been fun, and we look forward to next time. We'll see you then.
It's tough growing up, and we need our parents more than they realize. You don't want